I'd like to introduce Reanna Schultz. She's going to be presenting Social Engineering, Training the Human Firewall. So please welcome our speaker.
Well, good morning. Some of you guys have had your coffee, so thank you. Before we begin, I personally want to thank each and every one of you in this room for not only coming to my speaking session today, but for coming to B-Sides Knoxville 2023. We're going to be discussing social engineering, training the human firewall. And as a quick introduction, my name is Reanna Schultz. I am from Kansas City, Missouri. In fact, I had started my cybersecurity journny attending the University of Central Missouri. I graduated in 2018 with my Bachelor's of Science in Cybersecurity, Secure Software Development, and then later again in 2020 with my Master's of Science in Information Assurance. I have a very technical background in endpoint security engineering, network security engineering, and as today, I work as a team leader out of a security operations center at Garmin. I'm very involved with my community. I work very closely with the Girl Scouts of America, being a STEM mentor. And besides my love and passion for this field, I really enjoy 1980s science fiction books. If you do want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I highly encourage you to scan that QR code located on the top of the slide. So before I deep dive into this presentation, I want you all to have a few takeaways. One of the things I am going to request of each and every one of you is to keep an open mind. One of the most amazing things working in cybersecurity is the diverse background our community has. Some of you in this audience might be students, maybe sales vendors, maybe you might have 5 to 10 years of experience. I want you all to really learn about a concept called user architecture. User architecture is built on two concepts: how our users think towards security threats and risk, and how our users act towards security threats and risk. And because we're going to understand user architecture, we're going to be learning how to identify risk in our business through our security education program. I want you all to learn how to start your own security education program if you do not have one. And if you do have one, awesome. I want to hear what you're doing in your business. I'm also going to provide some insights on how you can mature your phishing program, on how to set ideal, realistic goals, and then also what you can do to improve your phishing pool by incorporating mature phish. So, some historical knowledge about the topics I want to present to you. In fact, when I was attending UCM and I was getting my master's, I had conducted my own research. This was a psychological research as to why are our users clicking on phishing emails, regardless if security education is already present. And for me to understand this, I had taken a participant group of 100+ users. These users had backgrounds in computer science, software engineering, and cybersecurity. These participants were not novice with computers. In fact, they were not novice understanding what a phishing email was. This is really important, right? Because unlike our business, where we have a wide range of users, I had a control environment about the backgrounds of my participants. And for me to understand why are they clicking on emails, I had phished them with 3 different phishing campaigns. Each campaign consisted of 2 phish that progressively got more mature. In fact, these 3 campaigns each focused on a specific threat. I focused on phishing a barrel, spear phishing, and spoofing. And for me to measure the difficulty of these phish, I had created my own algorithm. This algorithm highlighted the more phishing characteristics a phish had, the higher the likelihood a user should be able to spot this as a phish. Because not only am I wanting to see, hey, why are they clicking, but can my users learn and adapt and grow through this different type of threat landscape? So like I said, user architecture, right? This was a really important concept for my research to understand why my users are clicking. And in fact, if we take this back in our business, this can assist us in identifying risk and gaps in our education program. User architecture is built on 2 concepts. The first one being how our users think. How do our users think towards security threats? Where do they get their mindset from? Well, the influence of us as security professionals, how we project and how we train. And Hopefully that leaves a positive impact on our users. So I like to use 2 examples to highlight this. The first one being leadership wants a small click percentage because it shows our awareness is improving. If you had first conducted your phishing program in your environment, I guarantee you it probably wasn't uncommon for you to see a 50 to 75% click rate because this was new. This was a new type of training for your users. And as you continue to incorporate phishing and that form of security education, those metrics start declining, right? And now it went from 50 to 75% to maybe a 2 to 3%. Leadership goes, yeah, this is working. Our users aren't clicking. Now, if we take this mindset and we go back to our user, right? This user works for a company. This company sends phishing emails second week of the month. In fact, this company might also have incentives for when you report a phishing email. If you report it 4 times in a row, they're going to give you a swag item or maybe recognition in a team meeting. I had one person in the audience one time told me that they give out gift cards if you report security phishing 6 times in a row. I would love to work for a company that gave me gift cards for reporting phishing emails. But in this situation, this user shows up to work, they open up their email, and they notice something that's not normal in their email inbox. User goes over to their coworker, hey, did you by chance see this email? Are you on this? The coworker goes, yep. In fact, I reported to security, it's our phishing awareness for the month. User goes, cool. It is second week in the month, and in fact, I'm 1 phish report away from getting my cool swag item. So the user reports it to security. They get that confirmation saying, hey, thanks for participating in our phishing assessment. So this user, who was a great user and is an ideal team player, what are they going to do? They're going to set the rest of their team up for success. They're going to screenshot this email, post it in Slack, Teams, Discord, whatever their communication platform is for their environment. And now everyone else knows what the phishing email is for the month. But you know what? Leadership sees that 2 to 3% click rate because obviously our users are not clicking phishing emails. So what was the mindset that we trained our users? Not how to read emails, not how to hover and go through, hey, is this suspicious? Is this a shortened URL when I hover over this link? Is there bad spelling? No. We trained our users to adapt to our environment, to think what is happening in the business, second week of the month, those incentives, what I can do to share this with the rest of my team. So then I have a second mindset. Annual education refreshers are important and must be mandated. Absolutely. If you have cyber insurance, or even if you do compliance and auditing, annual refreshers are important because we can't force our users to interact with our phishing emails and our phishing assessments, but we can for sure check a box on our compliance checklist that they watched a video. Now, I don't know about you, I personally do not love my annual HR training videos. I know they're important, but especially this time of the year, we are almost 6 months into our calendar year, which means the holidays is around the corner. A lot of companies are already doing their sprints. They're finishing up their projects, their deadlines, and then of course the last minute of, oh, we need to add this on for this calendar year. We need to get this project going. So if I'm this user who is juggling 15 different things and I show up to work and I open my email and I see, hey, you have required training due by end of the week, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So what do our users typically do, right? They're not going to sit there and watch a video as to why plugging a USB into a computer is bad. No, they're going to pull this video up, run it in the background. In fact, we always have that one person we work with that goes to the vending machine and gets all their snacks, and then they come back and the video's done and they take their 2 to 3 questions and pass. So again, our security mindset is, yes, we're checking a box off compliance for our insurance. Our user's mindset is, yes, I'm checking a box just to get this over with. So again, what are we training our users? We're not training them how to think like security professionals, not showing and displaying the importance of security threats and providing that passion back to our business. Our users are learning how to adapt to security mechanics. So then the second part of user architecture is understanding how do our users act. And this is important because user architecture is something we cannot control. This is why it's a risk in our business. So for us to understand how our users act, we have to know our users in our business. And I'm not talking about a personal level. I do not care about people's favorite colors or what they had for lunch, unless it's a really good recommended restaurant. But know thy audience, meaning what type of users are making up in your business. And I like to use two types of audiences. We have Dave in finance. I feel like we always work with a Dave in finance here. Dave in finance works from Monday to Friday. He is an ideal team player, really supports the mission and vision and culture of the business. And if we think about Dave in finance, what does his email traffic look like? Probably works very closely with payroll, benefits and 401k services. If he works with those accounts, where does the money go for these packages? Maybe customer accounts. And then we have the opposite spectrum. We have Steve in sales. Steve is also a great employee, but what could we think that Steve's email traffic looks like? Steve probably works very closely with customers, business relations, maybe communication and marketing, because he is building that reputation for his company and selling products and making revenue. Hypothetically, Dave and Steve work for the same company. This company got targeted with a phishing attack. This phishing attack is very sophisticated. It's a new type of threat, and so a lot of email and network security appliances might not have seen enough of these threats in the wild to update their scanners, to update their signatures to stop it. This email made it to the end user, where both Dave and Steve got it. In fact, the contents of this phishing email states, hey, there was an error in our system. You have been unenrolled in benefits. If this is a mistake and you are a benefit provider, please click that link below within the next 24 hours so you can be re-enrolled and have benefits. Dave, who works in finance, who works very closely with benefits and 401k services, sees this email and goes, this is not an authorized benefit provider. Dave submits this to security. Now, what is the likelihood that Steve is going to have this exact same reaction? That is a gap, and that is a risk, because Steve might be one of those users who doesn't really do the research on the benefits and gets the annual reminder once a year that says, hey, you need to re-enroll in benefits, and they just click the link, and then boom, they have health insurance. So Steve is probably going to have a different reaction than Dave, based off their job and what they do for the business. So security education software can be very expensive. There's a lot of good, reputable brands out there that do provide decent security education, Proofpoint being one. They do a pay by user. But again, if security education is new to your business, the reality is cybersecurity does not make a company money. We do not make them revenue. In fact, we cost them money. And it's always hard when you have to justify when you get a budget and you have to fight for where that budget should go. Should it go into our EDR? Should it go into more of our network? Maybe we need more resources. What about security education? Now, this is also a factor. So a tool that I had used for my research is called Go Get Phish. Go Get Phish is a free open source platform. And sometimes I get questions that's like, is this great? Open source can be kind of skeptical. And I agree. I am personally skeptical of open source because you get those developers that make their project and then they'll post it and they'll forget about it. And then you're like, well, that was great while it lasted. Go Get Phish developers are a little different. They're very involved with their community. They post frequent updates, new features. In fact, if there's even bugs or patches, they post it immediately. And also, what was also great about this is that it integrated very well with reputable SMTP services such as Microsoft, Google, Yahoo. And by no means am I a software engineer or an application developer. I had stood my phishing environment up in less than 2 hours with 100+ users in my 3 phishing campaigns. This was great. I will not be surprised if this tool is not free in the next 2 to 3 years, honestly. But again, I'm not trying to sell you guys a product. I'm providing you a resource, because if you do not have security education in your business, right, this is a risk. You are saying, hey, I'm approving the risk that my email security, that my network security, that my EDR is going to stop threats. Threats evolve so fast. and it's almost near impossible for us to continuously have our security appliances updated. If you do believe this, awesome. This is why it's important for you to keep an open mind in this presentation. This is why we grow as a community. So my research environment, I had hosted a Linux virtual machine on my own desktop. And this is where I hosted that Go Get Phish service. In fact, I had hand-developed all of my phishing campaign emails through HTML, CSS, and some fancy bootstrap here and there. I will show the emails that I use for my campaign. You are more than welcome to steal the ideas of some of these. I know when I've done this historically, I've had a lot of positive feedback of people and their business falling for email, so it's kind of a good cat and mouse game. I did not want to send 100+ emails 6 different times from my personal email account. So what I did is I created a few other email accounts through Microsoft, Gmail, Yahoo, and I even had a couple AOL ones. I used a webhook from this SMTP service back to my Go Get Phish environment as a form of authentication. So when I sent those emails out, in fact, I sent them dynamically, meaning no user received the same email at the same time, because I didn't know if they lived together. I didn't know if my participants worked together or had class. It brought another level of sophistication to my campaign. So when those emails got sent out through those email accounts out to my users had 2 options: to click an email or to not click an email. And if they did click an email, they went to a SurveyMonkey website. And why did I use SurveyMonkey? Because it's free, but also it provided me a way to track click metrics. SurveyMonkey does this for you. And when a user clicked on it, it prompted them with, hey, you fell for a phishing campaign. Here are some steps for you to recognize phishing in the future. And here's a survey. You had an option to take the survey or not as to why did you click on this. So like I said, I'm trying to find why are my users clicking on phishing emails, regardless if security education is present. And then also, can my users grow their mindset and how they interact with phishing threats? 3 phishing campaigns. The first campaign, I had focused on fish in a barrel. And if you do not know anything about fish in a barrel, it comes from a very Western term where a fisherman would go out, go fishing. Every fish he caught, he threw in a wooden barrel. At the end of the day, he would stick his hand in the barrel, pull out a fish, and that's what he was having for dinner. Today's fishing is a little different, right? So similar concept, but we put this in a threat actor mindset. Threat actors just spamming emails. Sometimes these might look like marketing ads or just junk, right? There's not really a specific audience or type that they're really aiming for. So they're looking for that one click, that one interaction, because that's all they need. I had talked about my algorithm. This campaign had a high scoring algorithm, meaning there are a large number of phishing characteristics in these emails. Thus, the user should have a high likelihood to spot this as a phish. In fact, if we look at my very first phish I have here, it says, hello, please see the given information, so please review now, sincerely your professor. It's a pretty bad email, right? There's a lot of grammatical errors. There's a period and a comma and a bunch of space and just bad spelling. There's a lot of red flags here. There were clicks on this email. Why? Especially, right, we remember my participant background being software engineering, computer science, cybersecurity. Why are you clicking this email? You should know better. The user responded with, I was curious. I believed my antivirus protects me from all types of security threats. In fact, if you're curious, they were running Norton on their computer. Followed by not paying attention, right? And I said, good grief. Okay, let's try this again. Phish number 2. The contents basically highlight, hey, I know you're a student. People that typically are students don't have a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. Take the survey link and you'll get a gift card for your time. Unlike the first phish, there were a significant less amount of clicks on the second one. But again, I had a user saying that they weren't paying attention, and they still had a habit of clicking on emails. Habits are hard to break. So, all right, let's do the second campaign. What's going to happen now? Spear phishing. Spear phishing, spear phishing, spear phishing. I wanted to target specifically them being students. And in fact, not only did I want to target them being students, I wanted to have a psychological relationship with my participants. We go back to the phishing algorithm, right? It had a medium score, meaning that there was more of a risk that maybe these users probably aren't going to spot that this is a phish, but there's still a decent number of phishing characteristics to show that, hey, there's something weird here. There's something wrong. Now, the first phish I sent, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of mean about this, and I had a lot of fun. The content said, hey, you were using the university network. In fact, you were looking up inappropriate content on the network. You had violated a policy. You need to take training. Click the link. There were a lot of clicks on this. In fact, that other column was an apology letter. I don't know if you know any college students. I personally do not want to look at their browser history or proxy data. So what was the main reason? There was a sense of urgency that influenced their thinking. But again, right, there's also a pretty decent high-level column over there that says they weren't paying attention. They had a habit of clicking on emails. And I also had another user state, they were still curious. Oh boy. So I said, okay, cool. I scared them. That was cool. That was fun. Let's do the second phish. But instead of me focusing on scaring them, I wanted to have a sense of trust, right? I wanted them to trust me, trust that I was too a student. And so I said, hey, we have a homework assignment. A lot of us are working on it on the below Google Doc link if you want to collaborate with us. And if you're not familiar with university environments, it's not uncommon that students are hybrid, right? Some of them are remote, some of them are in class. Maybe the class itself is hybrid, where it's one in-person class and then online, or full remote. And then you also tie in international students, right? So having these sharing platforms is not uncommon in a university. Just like my first campaign that I had sent, the first phish had a high number of clicks. But then that second phish had a significant low number. But again, I'm still seeing a pattern as to why they're clicking. Curious, not paying attention. They just have a habit of clicking emails. So now I'm thinking, well, are my users learning? Are they being trained on these types of threats if I'm exposing them, especially with a different level of difficulty? And this is why I had 3 campaigns. Because that third campaign is going to either break that pattern or it's going to prove that pattern is going to exist. Spoofing was my third phishing campaign. And spoofing can be a very scary, serious threat. If you do not have DMARC or DKIM signing in your business, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to add this as a roadmap for this year, if not 2024, because this will help you against spoofing emails. Now, unlike my first 2 campaigns, where they had a high level, a medium level, this one had a very low score algorithm, meaning there was little to no phishing characteristics present in this email. And if you think about spoofing, it's not uncommon spoofing emails are this sophisticated. So the first email I had sent, I had spoofed my own university address. And I said, hey, I just personally want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this. As a form of gratitude, here's a gift card for your time. There were a lot of clicks because the number one reason was that it seemed legit. And of course, we also have a user not paying attention. But I said, okay, let's see if this pattern continues, right? Let's send another spoofing email. This email I had actually carved from a legit technology office email. I scraped the contents and kind of modified it to seem, a little more precedence than reset your password. And to make it even more mature, I went on the university website and looked up their office hours to include in their email signature block. I took it a step further. I went to Google, looked up the logo of the university, and added that to the signature block, right? It looks like a legit email. The contents say, hey, your credentials were part of a breach. You need to reset your password so that way the university can stay secure. Please follow the instructions below. If you want to learn more about cyber threats, please see the below link as additional. The number one reason, it seemed legit. And then, of course, there's a user in the other column that thought they were curious about this as well. So, again, right? Unlike my first two campaigns, high number of clicks, significant less. This third campaign was the outlier. It broke that pattern. Now, if I had conducted this exact same experiment, but in my corporate environment, and my leadership comes back and goes, what just happened to our metrics? What is going on? Do our users not know how to spot phishing emails? Like, are we failing as security? And I would say, just stop for a second. Pause. Our users are growing and becoming educated. Why? Because they're being challenged. They're being exposed to different types of threats. User architecture is important here, because those second phishing emails of campaign 1 and 2 show how they're thinking and reacting differently. User architecture here has identified a risk in our business. So I'm going to say back to my leadership, not only are they growing, but we have identified a gap. Because if we get spoofed, these are actual metrics to show that our users have a high likelihood that they might fall for a spoofing email. Let's continue to add this in our phishing pool. Let's get them exposed. We are training our users. So what can you do to improve your security education mindset, right? I had said before, us as security professionals, we are an influence to our users and our user base. They learn from us because we are their source of truth. And for us to improve our mindset, what can we do? Well, the easy one is to evaluate your goals. Why do you have phishing education? Okay, so maybe it's a compliance checkbox. Okay, nice. This is real data that you can use to improve the security in your business. If you are averaging that 2 to 3% click rate, this is proof that your users are plateauing. They understand where they're at. They're not feeling challenged. They're not growing. So what you can do is look at your phishing pool. Maybe you have a high number scoring phish that have a lot of phishing characteristics in it that make it easy for users to spot. Maybe you have a lot of the same similar emails in your phishing pool. I feel like everyone has a UPS or Amazon notification email in their phishing pool. How many of those are you sending a year? Hopefully not 12 months of the year. So throw in a different phish that's not really seen in your pool. Maybe something a little more sophisticated. You're more than welcome to steal any of my spoofing ones. What happens to your users, right? Okay, well, maybe your 2 to 3% click rate went from a 10 to 12. So now you see that there might be potentially an education gap. You know where your users are being challenged. So aim for that middle spot. Aim for maybe that 5 to 7%, because that's going to be the metric to show that your users are growing and being challenged. You don't want your click rate being too high, because then your users are going to be frustrated. They're not going to want to participate in security because maybe they keep falling for emails and now they're not getting those incentives, right? So we have to have a growth medium that's both usable and allows us to have security in our business. Next thing you can look at is have a different mindset. Us as security professionals, it is engraved in our brain to participate in Patch Tuesday, to forever update our blacklisting, our IOCs, to do scanning in our environment, to update our firewalls and other security appliances. Why do we not have the same mindset with our users? To evolve and grow our users, because security threats are constantly evolving. That's why we do updates. That's why we do patches. We need to update our user mindset, because they too need to be set up for success when they get phished. So another question I frequently get is, I don't know how to improve my phishing pool. In fact, if you don't have phishing, that's, you get to start fresh. And I always tell people, you do not have to be Bob Ross of creating a phish. As much as we would all strive to be that, it's okay. So good news for you, there are resources. In fact, The news, right, is a great place to start. And if you are like, I don't know what news to read, start simple. bleepingcomputer.com, thehackernews.com, 2 great resources to start. And then even go on LinkedIn, go on Twitter, right? Follow influencers or even threat researchers that are seeing stuff that are in the wild. In fact, Microsoft, about 8 or 9 months ago, had posted an advisory about an O365 credential harvesting phish. This phish was scary because how the email presented itself, it was bypassing all of those security mechanics. And when it made it to the end user would click the link to log into O365 to access their document. The phish scraped the O365 login of a company. Sometimes companies have different fonts or logos with their O365 login. It scraped it and made it look legit. So it was another layer of maturity to that attack chain. Now, apparently, a lot of companies had issues with this phish, and we're personally reaching out to Microsoft or even submitting stuff to threat researchers on social media, and Microsoft said, oh my gosh, we need to post something about this. In fact, not only did they post IOCs about this phish, they posted screenshots of what the email contents of this phish looked like. This is where us as security professionals should be looking at these examples that are having, huge impact in our community. Why are we not training our users on real threats that are happening in the world? These are things you could put back in your phishing pool, right? You're preparing your users for battle against these threats. Now, another way you can look at it is not only do you have the option to see things in the wild, what about internally? I think it's important that people can have communication, a great relationship with not only their Tier 1 help desk, but their security operations center. These people are your first eyes and ears of being first responders for your business towards security threats. What is being sent to them? Maybe if we go back to the Dave and Steve scenario, maybe your SOC is seeing a lot of emails from Dave's department regarding benefits, right? This is a metric. How many people in sales submitted this email? What about your IT department? People that have admin accounts, people that have access to very sensitive information in the business, right? They get compromised. That's a whole other type of level that we need to protect against. But again, take things that your users are submitting. Incorporate that into your phishing campaigns. What about the things that are getting blocked? Things that your business is actually being targeted at. So if your email security appliance or even your firewall went down and there's no protection for maybe 5 minutes, you have to have trust in your users to spot the threats that your business is being attacked by. So again, I personally want to thank each and every one of you for coming to my speaking session. And I really hope that maybe you could take something back to your business, whether it's a refueled passion for security education and wanting to fight that cyber fight that we do every day, or ideas that you can mature your own phishing pool as well. If you had missed any of the QR codes that I have presented throughout my presentation, you're more than welcome to scan these. At this time, I will be taking any comments or questions that you might have for me. Yes?
So,
Try to work with me. Let's see all the questions on mic, please. Turn this on. I'm so sorry. I bet it's a good question. Okay, there we go.
so you mentioned effectively about the threat of having someone with an admin account being compromised. Would it be a good idea to have them have like a specific account for like the sensitive things such as the benefits and stuff that isn't connected to their admin credentials? Would that be a feasible and reasonable expectation?
So you're asking, I'm making sure I understand this right, you're asking separate account credentials for your benefits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of companies, they don't really use their same network passwords for their benefits page because, they might go through a third party for benefits and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So that helps bring that layer, of separation from the business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the talk.
Yeah.
Did you see any correlation by people who clicked on phishing campaigns by the number of emails they got during the course of their day? You've got somebody who's getting 10 to 15 emails a day, somebody getting 100.
Yep.
Did you see any correlation in that?
So from me personally, in my industry experience, right, this goes back to knowing your users. And not only is security education very important, right, your email is a digital footprint to the internet. And so people that might receive a lot of emails and stuff like that is a possibility as to why they have a habit of clicking, right? They just have so much. And then also to think about in a business is there a policy enforcing what you can use your corporate email for, right? Do we have people using their corporate email to sign up for Bed Bath & Beyond coupons or even Chipotle discounts, right? So now you're creating more exposure to your email of possibly getting those threats if those parties get breached, if that answered your question.
For the most part, yes. Somebody, yeah. For the most part, yes. It falls back into the type of knowing your audience
Yes.
again. Because obviously, I say obviously, finance may not get as many emails.
Yeah.
Or the type of emails may be a lot less. Versus sales, who's being bombarded by, he's trying to
Everything.
sell. Yeah, he's getting everything.
Technical account managers.
Yeah.
I would not want their inbox.
Any other questions? Anyone down here? All the way at the side. Okay. Oh, I see. Hold on. I know this guy. Okay, this is going to be a good question, I bet.
Oh boy.
Did you notice an increase or decrease in the efficacy of your phishing campaign based on time? Was morning, evening, afternoon better, or did it really not matter?
I'm going to be honest. Are you talking about like from when they interacted with the email?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I did not track that metric, but that would be an awesome metric to see what happens. So that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our speaker? Put your hand up real high so I can see you across the room. I had one question, actually. Did you have to, for this research, since your subjects were humans, did you have to go through like an institutional review board, or can
Yep.
you elaborate on that process?
Yeah, it was kind of, so if you guys don't do university research, especially if you do psych studies, you have to go through an institutional review board. And it's ethics saying what you're going to do and how you're going to conduct your research is not going to cause harm to the participants. And yes, I did have to go through an IRB. And it was a little different than your standard IRB because I didn't want to tell my users they were part of a study because that's the whole point of phishing, right? Is for the unexpected and see the reaction. So how I talked to my users was like, hey, you guys are going to be part of a social engineering study. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you're going to be automatically enrolled in the study. If you do not want to be a participant, let me know and I'll drop you as someone that wants to participate in this. And there are actually, my original email I think had like 500 students on it. So a good 40% of them said, no. I want nothing to do with cybersecurity and social engineering this semester. And I was like, I totally get it. So yes, I had to go through an IRB for it.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, this has to deal with your research, but with the Go Fish Me, did it have could you see some metrics on if it was delivered to junk, it wasn't delivered?
Yes.
Yeah, failed to deliver and things like
Yes,
that?
it was very, the UI for it actually showed it to you. So when I sent my emails, it had a timeline of when the emails were sent. And then if an email failed, that's where it would display the error as to what happened. And in fact, the logs for the application was very usable. So it told you like, hey, maybe the user undelivered because recipient not found,
Okay.
stuff like that.
And then their email protections, I guess it was university email, was it Did it block any of this stuff?
It did.
Phishing? Okay.
It absolutely did. My spoofing campaign, I actually got blocked at both. I think I used Gmail. Gmail stopped my campaigns. So I had to create like another Gmail account real quick. And in fact, my husband, he's sitting in the back corner. When you create Gmail accounts, you have to use phone numbers. My phone number got blacklisted for a couple of weeks. So I had to use his. So just letting you know.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hands up high. Anybody in the peanut gallery? No. Okay. Okay. With that, I'd say let's thank our speaker. That was an excellent talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.